right, action, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to episode 36 of the Daily BLP. I'm your host, Brian Collins, here with my normal crew for the day. Declan in the seat right next to me, running the show. How are you doing today, Deck?
Fine, except I am in pain from a nasty sunburn.
Yeah, we sat out all day in the sun watching a track meet, and we got sizzled, didn't we? Yeah. So, yeah, me too. Matt, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. Kind of wish I had a little bit of a sunburn. It's starting to get sunny out here, but yeah, doing good over here.
Yeah, I was like, I got a sunburn over the weekend. I was like, finally, sun, okay.
Yeah.
And it hurt, but I was okay. I got over it, went away, and I've already got another one today. But that's okay. Yeah. Okay, we didn't have any stuff to put on it, but ibuprofen helps sunburn. I don't know if you knew that, but take a little ibuprofen, and it's for inflammation, so it gets the inflammation down, helps with the pain.
You guys using aloe and all that good stuff too?
Usually, we just don't have any in the house.
Yeah.
It's early in the season, and we haven't gone out and gotten any. And if there's anybody in our family who needs those kind of products, it's Declan and me, because we're super white and freckly. But yeah, my freckles are coming out. I don't tan really. I just freckle, you know?
Yep.
My wife is different, and my daughter's got the same gene where they get dark like that. I don't know. They're just lucky.
Yep.
Coolio. All right, let's get right into today's show. So we're going to be talking a little bit about how things have been going for us since we got together yesterday. A couple things that we accomplished today and looking forward to. Talk a little bit about number 6 on the SMB tech focus for 2025, and then how things are happening in the NBA since last night. And then round off with a little lifestyle conversation about flexibility earned through business ownership. So let's go with it, huh? All right. So, we recorded late yesterday, so we had a bunch of things to cover yesterday, which we got through. Not as much as happened today, but like I said, I was at a track meet today, but I had a couple meetings that pulled away, jumped into my truck, and did those meetings. One was with a client that she's a provider with a client that is going to be slowly moving away from that client, opening a new practice with her brother. And she has a scribe through us, and she's wondering if she can kind of still use her scribe. So we just met with them, talked to them about how that works, and she'll be split in time, and we'll invoice her current employer for the time that she uses the scribe there, and her new company for the time that she uses the scribe there. But that's exciting. She's so happy with that relationship that she's created with that scribe, that it's important enough to her that when she goes out on her own, that she knows that she's going to need someone to do that type of work with her. So that's cool. That's just a testament to how, once you have somebody like that in your back pocket as a healthcare provider, like a doctor or a therapist or a nurse practitioner or a PA, that, you can do a lot more when you have somebody doing that busy work for you, like the documentation. So that was cool. Really cool conversation there. So I think that'll move forward just fine. And if that business grows and they bring on more providers, they're going to probably use scribes as well. And, the current client where this person is leaving from, that's going to create a spot where they'll hire a new person. And with that client, every provider that comes on board gets a scribe, because it's integral to them for them to be able to see a certain number of patients every day, to not have to do paperwork and stuff. So the other meeting was an interesting meeting too. So we brought on a new client earlier this year that came out of I went to a show in San Diego back in November, really small show where I was kind of a vendor partner at that show. And they, the deal is the people who arranged that show set up one-on-one meetings between you and some of the people that are there. You get to look at the list of who's coming, what they're all about, and tell them who do you think is the best match for you. And then they match them up and you get to meet with them. So we had like 10 meetings that day. And this was one of them that worked out. And we ended up meeting with their CFO and the person that was at the show. And they decided to work with us and hire one full-time resource from us to help them with accounts receivable. And which is, claims that were sent out but not paid. So we did that, got started on it. That's been going really good. But right after we started it, they fired a person on their staff that was overseeing us. And then they signed on with a company that has software, and they gave that company all of the billing work, including the AR. And they called us right away and they said, hey, we want to cancel the contract. And I said, okay, but there's a 6-month minimum clause in the contract. You have to stick with us for at least 6 months. This is a full-time resource agreement. So we went out, hired somebody that left their job to work with us to be a part of this project. We need to see it through for at least 6 months, because we can't just turn the lights out on this person and say, sorry, you know what I mean, and leave them on the street. So they were very gracious enough to say, okay, we understand that. We'll honor the contract. Love that, right? It's like, we're going to provide something useful for you anyway. Let's just see through the minimum. So we've been doing that. That's been going well. And in the beginning, they were a little bit, I don't know what the word I should use is, you could tell they were a little perturbed that they had to stick with it. You know, like, okay, we're just doing this because we have to. We're not going to do anything that is going to make this super easy. You know what I mean? But, credit to our billing services manager, Mitch, and the person that she brought on, Nicole, because they just knocked it out of the park and got to work, did a great job training, getting them up to speed, working through that, muck, and just keeping your head down, saying it doesn't matter, and doing the work. And they've done a good job. That company has hired an actual CFO to replace the interim person. And we just had a meeting with that CFO, and he's like, hey, I don't know the history of this. You could bring me up to speed. And I know there's been roadblocks. I want to remove those roadblocks. What do we got to do to get this $2.9 million AR number worked as soon as possible before these claims? Because what happens with this stuff is they eventually run out of time. You can't get that money anymore. What can we do to touch all these and work these and get as much of this paid in as possible before we can't get after them anymore? And he said, I want you guys to come up, tell me what you guys need. Do you need to have 2-3 more resources on the job? Tell us what you need. We'll see if we can do it, and let's get it worked. So that was a great conversation. And I think the moral of that story is, even in times when you think that the relationship's not what you wanted it to be, like when we signed on, it sounded like this was going to be a really good, amicable, long-term kind of partnership. Well, things change. We can't control what happens with another company, and they don't need to ask us permission to make changes. And but we did stick with our guns and say, we got to honor this contract. They were very, like I said, graceful and honorable to do the same. And we didn't hold a grudge. We knew, hey, we got 6 months. Let's do an unbelievable job for 6 months and see what happens. Maybe they'll want to stick with us. And right now it sounds like, they don't necessarily want a hard stop at 6 months. They definitely want to get to a point where we've worked everything and we've gotten all the money back for them that's actually possible. And then maybe it'll end at that point, which that's fair, right? So it was a great conversation. So there might be an opportunity to spin things up a little bit more for this client, earn a little bit more on our end, find a little bit more money for them, and we're happy about that. So that was my day today. A little bit of track and field, a lot of sunburn, sitting out in the grass on a folding reclining chair, and then taking a couple meetings in my pickup truck. That's the life. That's the life I live, man. How about you, Matt? What's your day been like today?
Today, knocked out interview and a few meetings, and then it was a good operations day for me. We're working on a new instructional video for one of our clients who has a product line of different light towers and things like that. So we're making instructional videos of how to set each of those up. So that means for our team, we have to really ourselves understand these products ourselves, so we know like what to point out. So we're just running through, meeting with the client, kind of talking like, hey, what's the difference between this product, that product, kind of putting a script together for, the instructional video. So that was most of my day-to-day, was kind of setting up that video. And then the next few weeks, that'll be pretty intensive in a good way, though. That's the kind of stuff we enjoy doing here, that really, attention to detail, things like that. I personally love working on projects like that. But today, a lot of planning and learning for those new product lines.
Yeah, that's cool. I've always gotten questions over the years from folks, especially with our Scribe program, that have been like, hey, tell us about the program. Do you have like a demo? Do you have like, and all we can really do is like say, let's get in a meeting. I can walk you through how it works and, try to paint a picture for you. But we've always kind of wanted to, how would we, if we could do kind of a video that was well produced, that reproduced what it's like for a provider and a scribe in their relationship. Like visually, would it be possible for someone to produce and direct a short film that showed like from multiple angles? Like here's here's the doctor in the room seeing the patient putting down their computer, but they're on a Zoom meeting with the scribe, and all of a sudden cut to the scribe. They're on the other side of the world listening in clearly, taking these awesome notes. And fast forward to the end of the day, and the doctor is having a fun conversation with their scribe, closing out the day and going home and being with their family and enjoying life and not having to do 4 more hours of work at home. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. But yeah, we've never really had the means or the kind of the inspiration to do that. But I bet you that would be something that people could like latch onto and be like, oh, that is really cool.
Yeah, that's actually one thing we did for the same client last year. We made a brand video for him, and it was actually one of the first times that I was working with like extras and actually making a little more cinematic. So it was fun for me because
cool.
I was like directing and everything, and it was essentially their product line, their lights are solar powered. And so what we did is the big harp on the video was fuel is bad, diesel is bad, all the issues that come with using gas. And so we started out with like news clips. If you remember the hurricane, I think in September of last year in Florida and all that, news clips of people not being able to get gas. And then we went to a video of a guy that we had in like a worker's vest walking with a gasoline can, and he spills the gasoline can and it gets everywhere and all that stuff. So I really feel like those work because one, it's not just like, hey, look at me, this is what I do, but it makes, the prospect, it's actually interesting. They want to stick around and it's a cool thing when they're like, hey, what do you guys do? And instead of like, hey, let's get on a call or email them back, just saying, hey, check out this video. I think it's super powerful to do it that way.
Yeah. And the thing, I think mainly the thing that's always stopped us is knowing if you're going to do something like that, production value has to be high and you got to have a budget to do it. You got to bring in professionals to be a part of it. Whether it's on the acting part of it, the lighting part of it, the production in general, you got to bring in people that know what they're doing, and people that know what they're doing get paid good money. So you got to be able to put that money aside and put it into it. So that's probably the main reason we've never done it.
Yep.
And a lot of our competition does because they're 20 times the size of us. They've got a budget and they can drop 20, 30, 40, 50 grand on a production crew for a couple of days to do something like that.
Yeah. What I've seen people do is like find ways to around it. Like, just put the money towards the cameras and then like use your own people for extras and things like that. So there's definitely ways to do it. But like you were saying, that's why I think like podcasts like this are so powerful for the SMBs, because you're able to make really good content, powerful content you can put everywhere, but you're not, like you said, investing in all that extra stuff.
Right. So maybe one of the things, it wouldn't be exactly the thing. One of the things we could bring a couple guests on, a couple client providers that aren't so scared of the mic and the camera, and just bring them in and say, take it, walk us through what your day's like having a scribe. Walk us through what your day was like without having a scribe.
Yep.
I just gotta set time aside to do that, because I can think of the people we're on the call with today. That wants to bring her scribe with her. That would be a really good person to have on the show to kind of say, this is why I love having the scribe. This is what it does for me. But cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What else for today? I think that's about it. Obviously we're recording late today. It's just been one of those weeks, but I don't mind it. I actually like recording later like this. It's sad that I don't have Manoj and Manish and those guys on, but it could force us to, it forces me to use Declan. So he's learning more. So that's awesome. I know he doesn't like to get up early in the morning and do it. So he likes the later in the day thing too, I think. But it's going to force through just sheer necessity to do the work to get some guests in here. So, yeah.
Very nice.
All right, moving on. Next segment, we're talking about today, number 6 SMB trend for 2025. This is one that's near and dear to my heart as well, too. This one is about cyber criminals increasingly targeting SMBs. So kind of some scary stuff that's happening. I think that the statistic right now in this report was that 27% of SMBs that were surveyed came back and said that they have been compromised, over the course of time by one thing or another. Talked about some of the things that are being done or they're being focused on to stop those. And a lot of it is fixing kind of company behavioral issues, and some of it is leveraging technology, right? So this is right up our alley. The Panacea side of our business, which is our IT MSP, this is the stuff we're doing. This is the stuff we're offering and providing every day to our clients. It's a big deal. So when we go in with a client, depending on their need and where they are, like let's say Matt, we cold called into you and you say, hey, what do you do for IT? And you're like, well, we kind of got it under control. Don't really pay anybody to do my IT. All right. So we're going to find out pretty soon that you don't have a need. But let's say we called in and you said, yeah, I've got a provider. We definitely had a need because of A, B, and C, but this provider's dropping the ball. And I find out that you want kind of the full suite of everything. You don't want to have to mess with IT. If there's an issue, you want somebody you can lean on. If we got to send somebody to your office to do something or wherever, to deal with setting up a mobile network on your production set or something like that, right? You're going to lean on us to do that, and everything that comes along with protecting you. And when it comes to, cyber threats, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So as a company, what we decided to do is just look at all those different threat vectors and include in our service things that account for all those different vectors. So one of the things that they said that companies are really focusing on this year, if they haven't already, is different forms of 2FA or MFA, multi-factor authentication tools. Whether that be, just leveraging things that come with their third-party software, turning those features on to where, they get a code to their phone or a code to their email, or putting something in between their software or their network credential logins and the people that are logging in, which would be some sort of service that requires and that generates that code. That's a big one. Another one is intrusion detection systems or managed detection and response services, or MDR or IDR, intrusion detection and response. These are different types of software and or services that you can purchase through different people or vendors to kind of protect you. Most people think well, I got antivirus on my computer, I'm good, right? Well, that depends. Is it the free McAfee that came with your computer when you bought it? Is that the built-in, features that's on a Mac, which are great? Even the built-in features on a Windows computer now are much better than they used to be. But there's a lot more, room for improvement when it comes to that. So shameless plug for Panacea, but this is the kind of stuff we do. One of the things that brought up too in this part of the report is how AI is contributing to the threats, because a lot of people are using AI in a way where they're contracting with a company that provides an AI, and they're giving that company and that AI complete access to their data sets and their IP, right? So let's take a medium-sized business that has 500 employees. Maybe it's a big marketing firm or something. Maybe it's a big law firm or something, right? You've got lawyers, you've got paralegals, you got staff, you got a lot of different people that have access to a lot of different data, and all of a sudden you're going to contract and give a company providing you with an AI access to all that data, and they're going to leverage that AI, get me this, get me that, fast, but who's doing the due diligence to make sure that AI company is protecting itself the way it needs to? Or so if that's a second party provider, who are the third party providers providing services to that AI company? Where's the AI company hosting its servers? How are they protecting those things? There's a supply chain of cyber threat that a lot of times people don't think about. And most of the time, if we move beyond the small to medium sized business market, every time you see a huge compromise to a company, like an enterprise level company, it's almost always down the line of software or service supply chain, meaning a second or third party vendor to that enterprise company got hacked as a vector to get into that company. So, a lot of it's not just, okay, we're all protected. We've got good things in place. What are we doing to make sure that the people we work with are protected too? So, yep. So, and there's a little graph here on the report. I encourage people to look up this report from the SMB Group 2025. Current and planned use of cybersecurity tools. So malware and virus protection, currently in use 86%. So 86% of SMBs are using some sort of antivirus or anti-malware. That's great. That's good. But that stuff is the stuff that's been around for the longest, and it's the stuff that, unless it's a certain type, that analyzes behavior on your device and your network as opposed to the type of file that it's blocking, your protection is limited there. Data backup protection and recovery is second at 72%. That's great. Data backup disaster recovery processes and tools and services are one of the best things when it comes to security, because as long as you're not the type of company that's housing the data that belongs really to somebody else, that protects somebody else, if somebody locks that down and if they have it, they can't really do anything with it, it's not going to hurt you. If you can just tell them to pound sand, we've already got copies of it. Have fun, And there's a big portion of companies in the world that if their data was locked up and they had a backup that they could recover from, they could tell people, I don't care, do what you want with it. It's not going to do anybody else any good. It's gibberish to you. Only we know what to do with that stuff, Because a big part of ransoming data isn't necessarily selling it. It's not giving you the ability to use it to do your business, right? Network, firewall, gateway security. So this is either hardware or a hardware device that's on your network that your internet goes into this firewall. And then there's processes and kind of things in place on that firewall to block certain things, types of attacks that are coming every day, hundreds, thousands of them that you don't even know about. Firewalls are blocking those. I tell businesses of any size, shape, and capacity, if you're doing real business with real money, with real other businesses, you better have a firewall, because there's things happening that you don't even know about. Regular security audits and updates, 64%. That's higher than I thought. Most of the time when I talk to SMBs, they're not doing anything like that. Multi-factor, I think it's probably higher now because more and more people have cyber liability insurance, and those cyber liability companies are forcing you to have that in order to carry your policy. If you don't submit those type of audits and security audits and updates on an annual basis, at least they'll drop you like a ton of bricks. All right, multi-factor authentication. We talked about that. 64% are doing MFA. For those who don't know, that's that annoying thing that after you put your username and password in, that used to be enough to get you into your account, which that's annoying enough as it is you put your username and password in, it sends you a code, you check your phone, you check your email, you check your mobile device that has maybe an app on it. There are different forms of authentication that are better than others. Endpoint device management. So that's a whole other type of service. Cybersecurity education for employees, 54% are doing that. I'd argue with this one. People are probably saying they're doing it, but they're not really educating. So giving them a flyer with their paycheck about the latest type of phishing threat, nobody's reading that. Extended detection and response, that's XDR. 44% are doing that. So there's definitely more that could be done. I mean, if it's budgetable enough and important enough, I think, that, it's just right now it's a cost of doing business. People have to, I call it a permission to play. If you want you want your permission slip signed to play ball in the business market, you got to be doing these things right, because if you're not, and it's just you and your business, but it's paying for your lifestyle, your family, that's what's at stake. If it's you and your business, your family, their lifestyle, plus your employees, their family, their lifestyle, plus your clients, which can trickle down, you definitely got to be doing these things. It sucks because, there's a lot of bad people out there just looking to do bad things to try to make money off you. But it's, there's enough goods and services out there to protect you against this stuff, and it won't break the bank. Part of it's just understanding that some of these things you can get with platforms that are almost an all-in-one thing, and they're not crazy expensive. You just got to build it into your cost of doing business. So, all right, wake up, everybody. I know I just bored you to tears with tech talk, but hey, you need to know it. So if you don't know what to do and you need some help, go to our website, www.panatexperts.com, and look around. You'll see some stuff. You can see all of our podcasts there. If you want to get the scoop, you want to see what's going on, go over to the podcast page and see all that stuff too. But, look up some of the services we provide. If you need help, fill out the little form and we'll get back to you right away. Cool. All right. Commercial done. All right. Segment 3. Let's talk basketball. Matt, did you watch any of the games or see any of the highlights from last night?
Watched a little bit of the OKC and Denver game. OKC took them down, so that was a pretty interesting one. And then what was the other game from last night?
Pacers knocked out the Cavs.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was watching that in the third. I didn't quite finish that one, but that was pretty crazy because the Cavs had quite a regular season.
Yeah, they were I think a number 1 seed.
Yep, I believe so.
In the East. So, but the Pacers look tough. They just look, they just look like they can do what they want to do when they want to do it. And you're right, 100%. The Cavs are a good team.
Yep, 100%.
So I think the Pacers are a team to watch. It's going to be Pacers-Knicks, I think.
Yeah, I think the Knicks will close out the Celtics. I agree with that, especially with Tatum out. It seemed like we talked about that last show. Looked like he just got surgery on his Achilles, so he's really, really hurt and out for a while. So unfortunate. Prayers go out to him, but I think that probably does it for the Knicks.
Yep. It's cool. I think it was either a tweet or a post on Facebook or something where the dude said, Knicks, Pacers, Eastern Conference Finals. I feel like I'm in the 90s again. Right. That's what it was back then. It was Bulls, it was Pacers, it was Knicks, it was to some degree Cavs, early 90s, early to mid 90s. Cavs had good games, like with Dan Marley was on their team and stuff. They were good. But yeah, it was a lot of the times came down to Bulls, Pacers, Knicks in the East.
Yep.
For sure. So that'd be a fun series to watch, I think.
I agree.
Cool. Well, let's move on to segment 4. Deck, how are we doing for time, my friend?
We're at 28 minutes.
Boom. We are just killing it.
Nice. There we go.
Nice. I just had the spidey sense that we're getting close. All right.
Dopamine.
All right. So, what did I want to talk about? Okay. So a lot of times I get to the point where I'm planning for the show and this is kind of where we talk about, lifestyle and how what you do for a living can affect it. And so what I was thinking about is what I was doing today, just being able to have a bit of freedom to look at my calendar a few days ago, see that my wife had on my calendar that my daughter was having her track meet for school. And, I could have, because my wife had planned to go and be there and stuff. I could have said, you know what, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to fill my day up with meetings because that's easy to do. But I said, you know what, I think I need to be there. It's the first time she's ever run in a track meet. There's not an official sanctioned track meet of the WIAA or anything like that. It was my daughter's in middle school, and her conference of middle schools around this part of the state, up to as far as almost to Green Bay, kind of down to the Sheboygan area. There's a bunch of these Lutheran private schools, and they all got together 5th through 8th grade and ran this track meet. And she's been telling me the last month or so at their school, they don't even have a track at their school. It's the smallest private Lutheran school in town. It's more of a kind of a low income school and stuff like that. You don't have to be Lutheran to go there. So they don't have a lot of fancy amenities and stuff. So they're training for this track meet and trying to find out who's going to run what by like running around the block that the school sits on. You know what I mean? It's like, so she's telling me I'm trying out for the 200 and the 800 relay, but when we practice for the 200, we have to slow down at the corners because if we keep running too fast, we'll run out in the road because it's like it's a hard turn. It's not like at a track, But so she was super excited because she had to run against a bunch of other girls in her class in order to get on the 800 team, and she made it on the 800 team. And so it was cool. I got to see her run that relay race. I didn't get to see her run the 200 or throw. They had like a softball throw for 5th and 6th grade girls because it's dangerous to have them throw a shot put at this age. You know what I mean? But and she didn't want to do discus. So it was just really cool. And I was reflecting a little bit on it, thinking about the show today. And as I was out there, I still had some meetings to do. It's not like I could just cut things off. I don't have, our business set up in a way. Me and my partners, all of us, we still have to get involved with certain things. We enjoy getting involved in certain things. But at the same time, we also know that we've got to figure out a way to replace our talents in the business so the business can do even better, So, but I stepped away midday, got into my pickup truck and connected to Zoom and did those 2 meetings I talked about earlier in the show, and they went well. It was fine. Everybody kind of understands now. It was another thing to reflect on is like 5 years ago before COVID, like when you had a meeting, even if it was a Zoom meeting, you almost felt like you had to be in your office in like at least business casual or a suit and tie to portray this. I'm stuck here in this room in a professional setting. That's the only way that you're going to take me seriously. But it's not like that anymore. You know what I mean? The people that I were meeting with, none of them were in their offices. One of them I could tell was at home. The other person I think might have even been in a coffee shop. And, I'm in my pickup truck. I turn my camera on and say, hey, apologize guys, I'm in a pickup truck. They're like, I don't care, whatever. And we got real business done. So that's, if there's a good thing that could come out of that whole debacle, it was that. But the fact that when you own a business, if you put some good people in place, which we have, to kind of help you, do things when you can't be involved in everything, you can tear away. Like Matt, I'm sure you found like, hey, you can design your day to go out and in the wintertime, do a day of skiing in the middle of the day of the week if you really need that and wanted to do that. And you could still get some business done if you wanted to, because you could go halfway down the mountain, hit the lodge, you know what I mean? Open up your laptop and talk to a client or talk to a prospect and get some work done.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
It's a huge privilege. It's for sure a blessing. Sometimes it can feel like a curse, like when you go on vacation, and you've got to pull away. Like this last vacation I took with the family, I had to pull away. We're like shopping, in the Dells, walking around to all the shops. I'm like, oh, it's 11:15. I got to get back to the truck and do a quick Zoom meeting. And they just kept shopping and they were fine. They understand. But again, sometimes it can be tough to be present all the time and those kind of things. But man, is it ever a blessing just to be able to do that. And sometimes,
100%.
You got to remember not to take that for granted. And, but yeah, that was just, it was cool. It was cool to be able to do that and get this terrible sunburn. But just to be able to be there for my daughter. Cause if I had the type of job where I didn't have any PTO or I didn't have the ability to do that, or my manager would have got mad at me, and you know what I mean, for expecting to be able to do that. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. Just reiterate. Yeah, just it's super, grateful to be in that position because, understanding a lot of other people, like you said, isn't the same. But at the same time, that's also what pushes us to work so hard, I think, and go above and beyond. And, entrepreneurship is by no means easy, but it is nice to be rewarded to where, okay, you are your own boss. You can make your own schedule. So yeah, it's definitely a happy medium. Super grateful. That's why I chose to do this. I'm sure that's why you chose to do it too, because we could be working for someone else if we wanted to. We're more than skilled,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we wanted to do our own thing.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, just super grateful. I love this lifestyle. It's not for everyone, but I've been doing it for 4 years and I love it. So yeah, just super grateful every day to be in this position, and yeah, just pushes me to work harder too, to know that I can do those things.
Yep. It pushes you to grind because there's a real reward on the other side of it if you stick with it. But too, like there's a big risk. So there's a big risk at any point in time. Your income could go way down or way up, or so part of the trade-off is that there are some flexibility options and creativity options when it comes to how you work your freedom. So
Definitely.
that's cool. Yep. All right. Well, that's all I got today, Matt, Declan, audience, whoever you are out there. We appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in every day. When you do, feel free to comment on these. If you've got something to say or you want to reach out and say hello, we'd love to see that. Love to hear your thoughts. And just appreciate everybody involved. And we'll see you guys on the next show. Thanks, everybody. Take care.